Well, now that we've spent the last couple episodes talking about background characters that didn't quite assimilate well into becoming more primary main characters, how about we talk about a character whose transformation from background to primary was actually handled pretty well. Impmon is introduced near the beginning of the first arc as a kind of antagonist, but also kind of comic relief. He mostly just goes around and causes problems for our heroes, usually not anything too big. And he's doing it all just for fun. He doesn't have any overarching goals or objectives. He's just a jerk. But through these little misadventures, he does make connections with other characters early on in the season, mainly the Digimon ones. He enjoys taking advantage of Guillimon's naivete and manipulating him into doing things. He and Terriermon have a sort of rivalry. I don't know, Terriermon is the one that stands up to Impmon the most, and he seems to be the object of most of Impmon's ridicule. Yet Impmon likes to ridicule Terriermon and all the other Digimon partners for having human tamers. Yeah, Impmon's got this whole anti-human agenda, talking about how Digimon are just the pets of humans. They need to leave their human tamers and be wild and free just like him, and that the whole theory that Digimon need humans to digivolve is not true at all. They can just do it on their own. And he keeps using himself as an example of how great his ideology is by saying how strong he is, even though he's a complete punk who only gets in fights with either Calamon or small human children. And whenever a real fight presents itself, he typically runs away. But it's this type of bravado and attitude that gets him to introduce himself to Renamon, who is his most active relationship in this season. He just starts harassing her and giving his speech about why humans suck and stuff, and Renamon just kind of dismisses it and walks off. But obviously it resonated with her because she does keep in contact with him, like when she's going through her identity crisis involving Rika and all that. She does seek out his advice, even if she later admits it was a dumb idea. But it does help set up Impmon's character and possible roles he'll play in the future, either as a villain character with his obvious lust for power and his overt hatred of humans, or, due to his relationship with Renamon, possibly a turnabout hero character, or an anti-hero character. Honestly, for a little bit, I was expecting Impmon to turn out to be Jerry's Digimon partner. Ha ha ha! Awkward in hindsight. But for most of the first arc, Impmon doesn't do a whole lot. He is very rarely seen. I don't remember many episodes that specifically focused on him. And when we do see him, he's either harassing innocent bystanders or causing mild irritations for our heroes, or just talking to people who aren't listening to what he has to say. But the show does start to bring him more front and center towards the end of the first arc, or at least the part of the arc before the Devas show up, when we're privy to a flashback that shows us that, well, Impmon used to have human tamers, and he left them due to their constant abuse. So we do establish fairly early on Impmon's backstory, but after that, for a while, he doesn't do too many important things. He attacks Henry's dad, revealing to him the existence of Digimon. When Henry and Takato and Guillemon go camping, they invite Impmon to go swimming, and he accepts, and I only mention this because it's referenced later. But yeah, not a whole lot's done with him until about the end of the Devas section of the first arc, when this horse Deva begins to mock Impmon because he reeks of human, a reference to the flashback, prompting him to go on a rampage involving cops, prompting Renamon to step in. This leads to an argument where Impmon accidentally reveals that he used to have human partners, which Renamon starts pressing him on, and then he punches her and starts whining about how all he wants is to be more powerful and stronger, which then prompts him to go challenge the horse Deva to a one-on-one death match, even though Impmon is only a rookie and the horse Deva is a divine ultimate level Digimon. It's obvious that this is some sort of suicide attempt by him, or a sort of, I'm going to become more powerful by absorbing this thing's data or die trying. And this leads to another one of those dark scenes that people remember from Tamers of Impmon just getting utterly destroyed and left just dying in the middle of the street as the horse Steve is about to step on him and kill him, with Renamon deciding that at this point she'll rush in and save him to teach him a lesson, or I don't know. Anyway, Impmon slinks off into some ditch somewhere where this magic voice starts talking to him. And this is the part of Impmon's story where I kind of have mixed feelings, because I've actually kind of been enjoying Impmon's character up until this point. He was annoying, yes, but I still feel like the show was working with him in a way that was setting up for something big to happen to him. Like, I was actually very interested to see where they were going to take Impmon's character. Because before watching this, a lot of the advertising I saw for this season had a focus on Impmon. So I just wanted to see, okay, what is going to happen to this seemingly comic relief villain that's going to warrant this much focus? And I'll give them credit, the flashback early on in the story did pique my interest. And also, I have to admit that really horrible, obnoxious Joe Pesci voice the dub gave him, that I'm sure mostly everybody hates, kinda started to grow on me a little bit.
Ah, come on! You're not really buying that one! The power's inside of you! Forget all the rest!
And what the fuck are you doing on TV anyhow? You know I get calls from back home every fucking day. They think you went batshit.
But as soon as this voice starts to, you know, come into play on the show, I understand what they're doing with his character. I just don't agree with it. Okay, so this voice just tells Impmon to come into the light, and it'll help him achieve true power or whatever. And Impmon complies, and he gets sucked into the digital world, where it turns out the voice was one of the Devas, who also begins taunting Impmon for apparently still having feelings for his old human partners, and says that if he wants real power, then all he has to do is like sign away his soul or whatever to the Devas, and Impmon accepts, and he gets sucked into this vat of lava, and he reemerges sometime later as the mega level Digimon Beelzemon. Now, my only real problem with this transformation is I just don't understand why the Devas would put all this like trust and focus into Impmon. Like, they apparently have this power to turn any Digimon into Mega. My only question is, why would they give this power to Impmon and not use it on themselves? Like, it's never mentioned that this power has any negative side effects. Like, I could see the Devas not wanting to use this if it was like some power that like sucks away your life force and will eventually kill you unless it's released. But I don't recall it ever doing that. And also, even though Impmon has to sign away his free will or whatever to get this power, he still has complete free will. He is not loyal to the Sovereign whatsoever, and this new power doesn't like make him beholden to the Sovereign. I mean, they have absolutely no control over him. Beelzemon at one point is just going around killing Digimon for no reason. He ends up murdering a Deva and then talks about killing the Sovereign. Great job, guys! You just gave superpowers to some sociopath who hates you. I just don't understand, like, story-wise, the focus the Devas would have on Impmon. Like, why would they be so interested in him? But I know the story reason why, which was the writers need to give Impmon a lot of power really quickly so he becomes overwhelmed with it and eventually just kind of goes power hungry and insane. But all that could just be me nitpicking and making something out of nothing. So we'll move on. So yeah, Impmon is now mega level, and he's got a motorcycle. And he has also been tasked by the Sovereign to kill the main heroes, which he just ignores and goes on a killing quest for a little bit. But he does confront the heroes shortly after Rika reunites with the group after getting separated. But this confrontation doesn't really do a whole lot other than have the group realize through Renamon that this is, in fact, Impmon, because nobody recognizes this as Impmon when he first appears. Only Renamon just kind of can, like, I don't know, see into his soul or whatever. But this confrontation doesn't last long because a sandstorm starts whipping up and Impmon just can't handle it and he just runs away. The next time our heroes confront him, it's, well, at the Sovereign's palace, and we already know how this plays out. Beelzemon is pretty much invincible. He's about to kill Cubimon. Leomon steps in, and in Beelzemon's power-hungry quest to absorb as much data as possible, kills Leomon, absorbs his data, prompting Tikado to digivolve Guiomon, and Beelzemon kills a Deva to absorb its energy to make himself stronger so he can beat the new evil Guiomon, and then Gallantmon, they fight, Beelzemon loses, Jerry says spare him, and then Beelzemon wanders off. Well, I'm pretty sure that's the last time we have to recap that scene. So yeah, Beelzemon is completely dumbfounded that the person that he has hurt the most, Jerry, has given him mercy. And it plagues his mind with guilt, so much so that he begins to torture himself to try to get the power that the Devas gave him released from his body. Eventually it is, until he's left to die in the desert, and then Rika and Renamon come save him, and he comes back to the real world. And this is where Impmon's character begins to transform from power-hungry villain to actually kind of redemptive hero. Because he's plagued by the guilt of killing Leomon, and like that image of Jerry just sticks in his head. And he actually goes out and tries to find his old Tamers, Ai and Mako. And after they apologize for abusing him and he rekindles his relationship with them, Impmon decides that it's time that he does something right for once. He decides he's going to go help the heroes fight the D-Reaper and save Jerry, in his eyes redeeming himself for the murder of Jerry's Digimon partner. And I have to say, at this point in the story, Beelzemon was easily tied with Rika as my favorite character. I was really digging Beelzemon as this, sympathetic or at least redemptive character. I would say he's easily the best example of Tamers trying to raise the prominence of one of its secondary characters. I just feel like overall he was better written than, say, Jerry. Because while Jerry was introduced in the first arc to just kind of be this wide-eyed, innocent little girl with some minor quirks that could possibly later on, after all this tragic stuff is revealed about her, be interpreted as something more meaningful or dark, or possibly something more telling about her mental state or past abuse, or it's just completely left up to your imagination. But we're not privy to all this, backstory about Jerry until the very end of the season, when she is pretty much out of the season. She's not really doing a whole lot now. But with Impmon, he's shown to be a very conflicted character near the beginning of his introduction. We learn about his insecurities, we learn the possible reason why he's jaded against humans. We're watching this character change more in real time than in flashback. And we also see this character's backstory and insecurities come into play more as a story element rather than just like an explanation. And unlike Kenta and Kazu and Ryo, who I feel didn't have enough character to kind of warrant or sustain a prolonged increase in character status, this show does seem to put a lot more thought into Beelzemon to try to keep him actually interesting and relevant. With his rise, his fall, his search for his Tamers, and later his decision to go on a redemptive mission. And it's actually for those reasons that during these last few episodes, I actually felt more sympathy and connection to Beelzemon than Jerry, even though Jerry has been set up as pretty much the ultimate victim. But yeah, during these final big scenes of Beelzemon trying to rescue Jerry, I was hoping that would happen, but not because I cared so much for Jerry's character, but rather I just wanted to see Beelzemon's character be morally redeemed for his past indiscretions. Now you could say that says a lot about me, choosing to side and sympathize with the murderous hell demon over the small innocent child, but I feel like it's a good way to compare the two ways to handle background characters. It just seems better to have your character's traumas known near the beginning of their introduction and have it play out more in their development and change, rather than having it all come out after their climax. It just allows your audience to connect to them more when you see the things actually happen to them. But anyway, let's wrap this up. Beelzemon tries to rescue Jerry. He gets trapped by the D-Reaper for some reason. I don't know why it doesn't just kill him, but it doesn't. And then Beelzemon escapes, and it starts to kind of mock him in a way.
Beelzemon, the Digimon that destroyed Leomon. Destroyed Leomon. Destroyed Leomon. Destroyed Leomon.
Stop using Jerry's voice!
Yeah, this is another scene the D-Reaper is just really creepy in because the D-Reaper is just, overall, just a creepy creation. But its mocking managed to goat Beelzemon into using his ultimate attack, which does nothing, and then the D-Reaper destroys his gun, which was a toy gun that Mako gave him, which turned into a real gun, and this just sends Beelzemon into a complete blind rage, just now caring about nothing but getting Jerry out of there, and calls upon the absorbed data of Leomon to shoot an attack that breaks the barrier that Jerry's being held in. But Jerry is too terrified, traumatized, and, well, overall depressed to escape the dome with Beelzemon, and then the D-Reaper forces Beelzemon out, and the D-Reaper seemingly kills him. Yeah, we're going to talk about that later, but for now we're going to do final thoughts and wrap this up. Impmon and Beelzemon were a very welcomed addition to this season, becoming the fan-favorite character from Tamers. With Impmon's comedic interactions, Beelzemon's cool, slick design, and an interesting redemptive story arc, it's easy to see why audiences liked him. Also, it helps that he has probably the coolest fight scenes in the season. I mean, seriously, that fight scene he has with Gallantmon is, I think, one of the biggest moments in the series. It's really cool. And he's easily the best Digimon-based villain this series ever got. I know it's kind of cheating because he, isn't a straight villain. He's kind of like a weird anti-hero thing or whatever. But I'm going to give it to this series because there is just very few good Digimon villains that this show has to offer. But yeah, it seems kind of obvious that the show put a lot more thought into Impmon than most other background characters. Maybe it has to do with the fact that apparently Impmon was originally going to be Takato's Digimon partner, but this was switched out because the head writer didn't feel like Impmon looked like the cute, innocent Digimon he wanted Takato to have. But whatever the reason was, I'm just glad they did it. His transformation to Beelzemon and his struggle with power and redemption definitely helped move the second arc along and was probably some of the brighter spots and just completely dominated the third arc for me. Those scenes with him confronting the D-Reaper are the scenes that I most remember from Tamers. They're passionate, they're emotional, they're sometimes unintentionally comical with the fact that Beelzemon's dialogue comprises of 80% screaming.
Give me the strength I need!
But still, they're really good scenes. It's just too bad about the fact that he gets knocked off before he actually completes his mission of saving Jerry. That was kind of bullcrap. But still, overall, Impmon/Beelzemon is an interesting character. He's got interesting relationships with other Digimon. He's got some well-paced developments, some pretty memorable scenes. And it was kind of interesting when I had to rewatch this to do this critique, and I just see Impmon appear and he'd be doing some kind of cute comic relief stuff. And in the back of my head, I was just thinking, yep, in about 20 episodes, you're gonna murder somebody. It's cute now, but later, not so much. But before I end it off, I think I will mention one of my bigger problems with Impmon and Beelzemon in this season. Now, I mentioned before how it seemed like Impmon was more thought out than most other characters, and the writers were paying more attention and putting more focus into his development, which is good, but sometimes it felt like the show itself had some weird type of hyper-focus on Impmon. I already mentioned before how I felt it was kind of odd that the Devas had this, compulsion to give Impmon this power, even though it didn't make any sense for them to do so. In fact, it didn't make any sense for them to even care about him, let alone give him superpowers with seemingly no strings attached. But the season also tries to give his whole struggle this religious undertone, which can sometimes be a little bit distracting. Like, you got this scene here where Impmon agrees to help the Devas, and then he gets sent down to what is almost literally hell. And then he is reborn as a demon from the fires below. And that's not too bad, I guess. And then there's the scene where he decides to do good and reform himself, and he gains wings like an angel would. You know, that whole thing, angels get their wings by doing good deeds. it's, once again, not too bad, I guess. I mean, his wings do look cool, and it makes it easier for him to travel around the city. But the thing that overall just kind of, made me feel like this is just going too far was the scene where the D-Reaper pretty much crucifies him. That whole imagery I know is supposed to be symbolic of like struggle or whatever, but it just came off as more distracting. And I felt like it took away from the scene more than it added. You could have had him just tied up any old way. But who knows, maybe it was a reference that time Impmon crucified Rika, Takato, and Henry in that video game. Yeah, I just found that the other day, it's kind of weird. But yeah, that's pretty much all I'm going to say about Impmon and Beelzemon. They're just really awesome characters. And I know this video is pretty short compared to what I've been doing recently, but I just want to get this video out before school starts back up again. Lots of snow days. But next time we should talk about Yamaki, and we'll see if we can fit in the Sovereign. If we can't, we'll talk about the Sovereign before we go into the D-Reaper, and then we'll have the finale. So we got about 3 episodes left of this season, then we're done, and then we can get on to the movies. Alright? Sounds like a plan. Good night.
Sommerzeit, wir stehen auf vorne, Tag und Meer, die Sommerzeit.